El Salvador's Center for the Confinement of Terrorism, known as CECOT, has become a chilling symbol of the country's crackdown on both gangs and immigrants. Originally built to house the nation's most dangerous criminals, CECOT has taken on a new and disturbing role. Under a controversial deal with the United States, this mega prison is now being used to detain and incarcerate immigrants deported from the U.S. This alarming development has drawn sharp criticism from human rights groups and legal experts who denounce the lack of due process and the inhumane conditions within the prison walls. The agreement, shrouded in secrecy, reportedly involves the U.S. paying El Salvador $6 million for 1 year of housing deported immigrants. This arrangement raises serious questions about the outsourcing of human rights obligations and the use of mass incarceration as a tool for immigration enforcement. The arrival of hundreds of deportees, many alleged by U.S. authorities to be members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, has further fueled concerns about the prison's capacity and the treatment of those imprisoned within its walls. With an already overcrowded facility holding up to 40,000 inmates, the influx of deportees raises alarm bells about the potential for further deterioration of living conditions and an escalation of human rights violations. As the international community grapples with the complexities of migration and the rise of transnational gangs, CECOT stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of these challenges. The prison's transformation into a holding pen for deported immigrants raises profound questions about the future of human rights and the rule of law in an increasingly interconnected world. CECOT, located in Tecoluca, a rural town about 45 miles east of El Salvador's capital, is a sprawling complex designed to isolate and punish. Its high walls, watchtowers, and heavily armed guards paint a grim picture of the harsh realities that await those who enter its gates. Designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates, the prison operates under a strict regime of isolation and control, with no provisions for visitation, recreation, or educational programs. Overcrowding is rampant within CECOT's walls, with reports indicating that cells designed for a fraction of the population are now crammed with 65 to 70 prisoners. The lack of basic necessities such as adequate sanitation, clean water, and medical care has led to deplorable living conditions that pose serious risks to the health and well-being of those incarcerated. The prison's isolation from the outside world further exacerbates these problems, making it difficult for human rights organizations and independent observers to monitor conditions and ensure that basic standards of treatment are being met. Human rights groups have documented numerous cases of abuse, torture, and neglect within El Salvador's prison system, including CECOT. The lack of accountability and transparency within the system has created an environment where abuses can occur with impunity. The use of solitary confinement, often for prolonged periods, has been widely condemned as a form of cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. As the number of prisoners continues to soar, fueled by El Salvador's ongoing war on gangs and the influx of deportees from the U.S., the strain on the country's already overburdened prison system is palpable. The dire conditions within CECOT, coupled with the lack of due process and the potential for abuse, paint a bleak picture of the human cost of these policies. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos from Fresh News. Now back to the video. The deportation of hundreds of immigrants to El Salvador's CECOT prison has raised serious legal and ethical questions, particularly regarding the use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This antiquated law, enacted during a time of war with France, grants the U.S. President extraordinary powers to detain or deport foreigners deemed a threat to national security, even without due process. The Trump administration's invocation of this act to justify the mass deportation of immigrants, many of whom have lived in the U.S. for years, has sent shockwaves through immigrant communities and ignited a fierce debate about the limits of executive power. Critics argue that the use of the Alien Enemies Act in this context is a gross overreach of presidential authority and a blatant violation of fundamental human rights. They point out that the law, rarely used in modern times, was designed for a very different era and should not be applied to justify the deportation of individuals based on unsubstantiated allegations or without affording them basic due process rights. The lack of transparency surrounding the deportations has further exacerbated concerns. The U.S. government has refused to release the names of those deported, provide evidence of their alleged gang affiliation, or disclosed the criteria used to determine who was targeted for removal. This lack of accountability raises serious concerns about the potential for racial profiling, the targeting of individuals based on their national origin, and the denial of basic human rights. The use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport immigrants to a country with a questionable human rights record like El Salvador raises profound moral and legal dilemmas. It underscores the urgent need for comprehensive immigration reform that upholds human rights, ensures due process, and provides a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants living in the United States. The Tren de Aragua, a notorious gang that originated in the prisons of Venezuela, has emerged as a transnational criminal organization with a reach extending far beyond its country of origin. The gang's rise is inextricably linked to the ongoing political and economic crisis in Venezuela, which has forced millions to flee their homes in search of safety and opportunity. As Venezuelans have dispersed throughout Latin America and beyond, the Tren de Aragua has followed, exploiting the vulnerabilities of migrants and refugees to expand its criminal operations. The gang's activities, which include extortion, kidnapping, human trafficking, and drug smuggling, have had a devastating impact on communities across the region. Their ruthlessness and brutality have instilled fear in the hearts of many, making them a prime target for law enforcement agencies seeking to dismantle transnational criminal networks. The deportation of individuals accused of being members of the Tren de Aragua to El Salvador's CECOT prison raises complex questions about the role of immigration enforcement in combating transnational crime. While the need to address the threat posed by such organizations is undeniable, it is crucial to ensure that efforts to do so do not come at the expense of human rights. The indiscriminate deportation of individuals based on unsubstantiated allegations or without affording them due process rights is not only unjust, but also counterproductive. It risks further stigmatizing and marginalizing already vulnerable populations, potentially driving them further underground and making it more difficult to address the root causes of gang violence and transnational crime. A more effective approach requires international cooperation, intelligence sharing, and a commitment to addressing the social and economic factors that contribute to the growth of criminal organizations like the Tren de Aragua. Thanks for watching Fresh News. Don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend. We'll see you next time.